Hi everyone and welcome to episode 2 of TBR100, the read and vlog series where I am trying to get my Kindle TBR below 100 books before the end of the year. If you missed episode 1, then I'll have that linked in the cards and in the description, but at the end of that read and vlog, the TBR was sitting at 111 books. Since then I have picked up another book which I thought I would quickly tell you about. I read Best Hex Ever by Nadia Al-Fassi. This was a buddy read with Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads, and I think we had similar thoughts on it. It was a fun, witchy romance, very spicy, a lot spicier than I was expecting. Also the characters spent a lot of time having very horny thoughts about each other, and I started to find it a bit tedious in the middle. I think if you're okay with Insta-lust and you're looking for a witchy romance, then this could work really well for you. So I would recommend it, but I gave it 3 stars, not one that's going to be super memorable for me. However, it was very seasonally appropriate, and I'm hoping that is going to be the theme of this vlog. I am once again going to be using my TBR mug because of that book that I read in between vlogs. My TBR is currently sitting at 110. I'm going to try and read 5 books in this vlog, which means I will only need to read 5 or 6 books in December, as long as I don't buy any more books, which, I mean, I think it's going to be fine. I can show some self-restraint. I've just dropped a prompt, but we will see what this one is, and then I'll pick up the one that's on the floor. So, okay, this one is low number of ratings on Goodreads. Basically a book that is kind of underhyped. And then this one that I dropped on the floor, this one says poll pick. I think I'm going to go with this one because, or maybe actually what I could do is I could look for some books that have a low number of ratings on Goodreads and put them in a poll. I can combine the two. I'm going to do that. Okay, so I am going to go and grab my phone because I've not brought it into the room with me, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gone onto Goodreads and I will put the screen recording next to me so you can see, but I've organised my TBR based on number of ratings, and the first book that I'm seeing is The Couple by Helly Acton, which I'm fairly sure I talked about in episode 1 of this series. I bought this book because I read another book by this author and thought it was okay and was willing to try other books, but I've kind of lost interest in it and it's only got a 3.66 average rating. I will add that to the poll though because it's quite a short one. Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola. I'm surprised to see this on there, but it's quite a new release, so that would explain why not many people have maybe got to it yet. Both of those have less than 2,000 ratings on Goodreads, and then I'm gonna scroll past some of these fantasy books because I'm not really in the mood for fantasy right now, and some of these are quite chunky. The next non-fantasy book that we've got is The Accomplice by Steve Kavanagh. I think this is the next book that I need to read in the Eddie Flynn series. I'll double check, but I think I'm going to add that and Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Groudon to the list. Those are the 4 books that I'm going to be adding to a poll. I don't know whether to do it on Instagram or YouTube. I might do both and then combine the results, or I might just do YouTube actually. I'm going to have a think and then I will pop back in once I've got the result. Okay, so it's been over 24 hours since I started the poll, and the winner is Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Groudon, which I was not expecting. Maybe because this is an older book on my TBR. I'm pretty sure I bought it back in 2020 or 2021, but I've heard really good things about it, so I'm really glad that I'm getting round to picking it up. All I know about the synopsis is that it's set in, I think, the 1950s or 60s. It's an alternative history where Germany won World War II. It follows a girl who enters this racing competition because the winner gets to meet Hitler and she wants to kill Hitler. Very unusual, very different, unlike anything that I've read before. I'm going to make a start on it tonight and then I will check in with you once I have some initial thoughts. So I have a confession to make. I did not bring you a midway update for Wolf by Wolf. I started this on Monday evening after I spoke to you, and then I finished it on Tuesday because I was just really enjoying it and I didn't want to pause to update the vlog. So yeah, that's my bad, but I'm not going to apologise because I really enjoyed this and I'm debating giving it 5 stars. I think it's more like a 4. It didn't quite give me that 5-star feeling, but I read it in 2 sittings, so you know, would definitely recommend it. The plot is pretty much what I said. We're following this 17-year-old girl who, when she was around 5 or 6, she was taken to a concentration camp with her mom where she was experimented on, and as a result she now has this ability to skin shift. She can change her appearance. In the present day timeline, she's 17 and she's joined the resistance movement, so they have set up this mission where she's going to be taking on the identity of someone who's taking part in this competition. It's a motorcycle racing competition where the contestants go from Berlin to Tokyo. In terms of what genre this is, I would say that it's a thriller, but it's not a psychological thriller. It's more like an action thriller. I am really surprised that this hasn't been adapted into a movie because I think it would work really well on screen. The pacing was really tightly woven together. There were some slower moments because you got these flashbacks to the past where the main character was reflecting on her life and the people close to her. There's this element of the story where she has this tattoo. She actually has 5 tattoos of 5 wolves on her arm, and they are consistent regardless of her appearance, and so you get the backstory to that, who these wolves represent, which I thought braked up the pacing. But there was never a dull moment. There was never any parts where I was bored, hence why I finished it in 2 days. The reason why I'm leaning towards a 4-star rating over a 5-star rating is because this didn't quite go as far as I think it could have, but I don't know whether that's unfair of me because this is YA and I knew that before I think I bought it. I really don't want it to come across like I'm saying this is a good book for a YA book. This is just a good book in my opinion that happens to be YA. There's nothing within the content that I would say is unsuitable for someone who's maybe 14 or 15. There's been a few YA books that I've read where I've really enjoyed them, but I can tell that were it an adult book, there's certain parts where maybe it would have lingered for a little bit longer or where it would have gone into a bit more depth, and that's kind of how I felt about Wolf by Wolf. But I wouldn't let this being a YA book put you off if you're someone who doesn't usually read YA, because I think it's still a really great story. There is a sequel which I'm curious about, but I don't know whether I would like that as much as the first book because the elements of the first book that I really loved were wrapped up by the end. I wouldn't say that this strictly works as a standalone. It's very clear from the ending that there's more to come. But yeah, let me know if you've read this duology and what you thought of it. Let me know if you think it's worth reading the sequel, whether it's that same standard as book 1, because I think I could try and fit it in before the end of the year, especially because I read this first book in 2 days. We are now going to be moving on to my next prompt because I need something to start this evening. I didn't read anything last night because I went to see my dad. My dad lives in the US if you're new here, but he's in the UK at the moment because my sister is getting married next week, hence why this week has been really busy. I've been trying to get everything sorted obviously before I go away, but this next prompt is published in 2025. Okay, so I only have 2 books on my TBR that were published in 2025. The first is Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola, which I've already talked about. This is the sequel to Honey and Spice, which I read a few years ago and loved. The concept behind this is really interesting because it's a direct sequel following the same characters from the first book, but it's a second chance romance, and I just love the concept of that. So I think I am leaning towards Sweet Heat. I also have Problematic Summer Romance on my TBR, but I've read another Ali Hazelwood book this year. I read Deep End a few months ago and wasn't the biggest fan. I gave it like a 3 stars. I'm gonna read Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola. This is nearly 500 pages, but it's a romance, so I feel like I could read it quite quickly. We'll see. I am gonna, like I said, make a start on this tonight, and then I promise I will bring you a midway update before I finish it. I'm not just gonna read straight through it like I did with the last book. So I started reading Sweet Heat last night. I got about 30% of the way through, which is over 100 pages. pages, and I'm really surprised that I managed to read that much, because this isn't what I'd call a fast-paced book. It's quite slow actually for a romance, and like I might have said, it's over or just under 500 pages. It's around 500 pages, which again is quite long for a romance, but I really appreciate how Bolly Babalola takes the time to establish friendships and relationships outside of the main romance, which we've not really got into that part yet. Well, we kind of have, but I really like how the main character feels very relatable and like a very well-rounded, well-developed person. It's the same main character as in the first book, by the way. I don't know if I've actually properly explained that this is a direct sequel and it's a second chance romance. So Honey and Spice introduces the main character Kiki, and it's her romance with this guy Malachi. It's a college romance, it's got fake dating, it's really good. You should go and read it if you haven't already. I think you could read Sweet Heat even if you haven't read book one. I read book one years ago, so I kind of remember the characters and I remember how it made me feel. I can remember thinking there was such great chemistry between the two main characters. Sweet Heat is set, I think, around 10 years later. So Kiki is now in her late 20s and she's going through it. She's been through some stuff recently with her career and she's struggling to find direction again. And she's also in a relationship with this guy who seems okay, but just okay. One of Kiki's friends has just got engaged, and I think that part of the plot is going to revolve around this wedding. I am really curious to see how the romantic elements are handled in this book, because I am not usually a big fan of second chance romance. I've talked about this before, but for me to enjoy a second chance romance, I have to first of all believe that they made the right decision in breaking up in the first place. It usually works for me if the characters were much younger, like if they were teenagers when they first got together, because there's so many different reasons why you might split up when you're that young. I also have to believe that them getting back together is also the right decision. I hate it when I'm reading a second chance romance and I think, yeah, you made the right choice in breaking up in the first place, and I think you should stay broken up. If one of the characters, for example, did something that in my mind is unforgivable, or if there was miscommunication and I haven't seen that they've actually learned how to communicate properly now that they're, you know, a few years down the line, it just, yeah, it annoys me. So I'm going to be interested to see what I think, because so far I am really liking this, but that could change very quickly. Hi everyone, happy Saturday. I have been reading some more of Sweet Heat. I got about 60% of the way through last night and something happened and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm still enjoying it, but I want to talk through this thought train of mine because I feel like this book has cheating in it, and there's a lot of nuance to the situation. So I can imagine some people reading this and thinking, what are you on about, Sam? This does not have cheating in it. Don't know how I feel about it because I feel like it was unnecessary. I don't feel like it really enhanced the story. I think the only reason I've been able to get past it is because Bolly Babalola does write characters that feel very flawed and realistic, the kind of people that you probably know in your everyday life. And so I get it, but also I don't like it, and it's really messing with my mind because I still feel the chemistry between the characters. They have this heat between them. I want to feel invested in their romance, and I feel like I do, except there's this little thing in the back of my mind that keeps saying, but what about this thing that's not really been resolved? I feel like I need to keep reading and then I can give you some final thoughts at the end. But yeah, so far I like it. I really like the plot, and the plot is not mentioned at all in the synopsis, so that was a nice surprise. Obviously I'm not going to spoil it because it's not mentioned in the synopsis, but I'm liking the direction that the plot has gone in. I do enjoy following these characters. I can't get past this thing in the back of my mind, and I think what's helping is I've stopped thinking of this as a romance and I've started thinking of it as just a contemporary character study. You spend a lot of time in Kiki's mind because it's single person POV, and it's written in single person POV. You know what I mean? Like, you are spending so much time in her mind, and there's a lot of her thoughts and her processing, her emotions, and there is a lot of emotion in this story, so I want to love it. I'm just not 100% sure right now. If I was to make a prediction, I would say it's probably going to be a 4 stars, so still very much enjoying it. I'm just trying to get over this little thing. I'm hoping to finish it tonight. I am going out with my mum and sisters, and then tomorrow my dad is coming round for lunch, so we'll see when I do finish this. I'll definitely finish it, I think, before Monday. Monday is when I'm going away for my sister's wedding. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, so I definitely want to finish this by Sunday evening, which I should be able to do because when I'm reading it, I am really absorbed in the story. Good morning. I finished reading Sweet Heat a few hours ago, and I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars. I think Polly Babalola is going to become an auto-by-romance author for me because I loved the writing in this. I thought it was beautifully poetic. I thought the characters were really realistic, and I liked that the story felt as if it had time to breathe. I did feel like it was a little bit too long, but I'm willing to overlook that because I would rather that than for romance to feel rushed. I did want to clarify something that I talked about in my last update where I mentioned the cheating. There is a conversation where characters talk about that and they didn't see it as cheating, so I guess I'm okay with it, but still it was a struggle for me to get past that because it just wasn't really being addressed. I think that's a me thing though. I've had a quick look on Goodreads and I can't find any other reviews that even talk about it, so maybe that's just a me thing. I think most people would be absolutely fine with it. It's one of those where if someone came to me in real life and said, hey, this is the situation that's happened, I would say, yeah, that's probably, well, I mean, that's not good. It's not a reason to not end up being with the other person if anything that I'm saying is making sense. I feel like I'm talking around it because I don't want to give spoilers, but anyway, like I said, giving this 4 stars, and I am gonna choose another prompt now. I'm going away tomorrow, so I don't know if I'm gonna read anything before I go now, but I think it makes sense to choose a prompt now, and then I can take the next few days to decide what I'm going to read for this prompt. So, okay, we have published before 2020, so this is going to be a proper backlist book. I'm not going to pick anything now because that's too much pressure. My dad's literally on his way over, but I will check in with you once I'm back from the Cotswolds. I'll let you know what I decided to read and maybe talk through a few options because I feel like I have quite a few books on my TBR that were published before 2020. That was before I even started my booktube channel.
Baby, when I look in your eyes, I can see you as a child. The river gives us every good thing, and then it takes it all away. Don't take me away from you. Don't take me away from you. I feel like I knew you then, when I was a little boy.
So I am now back from the Cotswolds. As you can see, I got back a few hours ago. The wedding was yesterday, but me and Sam decided to take a little detour and stop off in Bourton-on-the-Water on the way home, which is one of my favourite villages or towns. Is it a town? It's in the Cotswolds and it's one of my favourite places in the Cotswolds, but Sam had never been before, so that was really nice. And yeah, we got back a few hours ago. My plan for the rest of this afternoon is to get in bed and read. I actually started a new book on Sunday. I didn't think I'd have time time. But I had a few hours free, so I just decided to start a new book. The book that I chose to pick up based on the last prompt was Creep by Jennifer Hillier. So this is a backlist book. It came out in 2011. It's one of the few Jennifer Hillier books that I haven't read, and I think it's her debut. I think she has another book that came out after this. Once I finish Creep, that will be the only book of hers that I haven't read yet. Basically, Creep is following a woman who is a psychology professor, and she was having an affair with a student, a grad student who's 23, who's one of her TAs. The first chapter is her breaking things off with this guy because she's just got engaged, and he doesn't take it very well, and things escalate from there. It's very dark, and I think that's why I'm not loving it. I think it's just a bit too dark for me. Most of Jennifer Hillier's books have been quite dark, but I realised other than Little Secrets, which is the first book that I read from her, everything else from her I've listened to on audio. This is only the second book that I've read with my eyeballs, and maybe I just prefer her books when I listen to them. I listened to The Butcher earlier this year. Was it earlier this year? Yeah, I think it was. And I really enjoyed it. That is so far my favourite of hers, and that was quite dark, which was one of the things that made me question whether to give it 5 stars. I think I gave it a 4.5 in the end. But otherwise, Jennifer Hillier, I find, is a very dependable author. I tend to give her somewhere in the range of 3.5 to 4 stars. But so far, I'm not really loving Creep. It's very fast-paced. The chapters are quite short, so I'm reading it quickly, and I'm interested enough to want to see where the story goes. But I don't think this is going to be a new favourite, unfortunately. She does have a new book coming out next year, though. I was thinking I might do a ranking video next year, or just a guide to her books when the new book comes out. That's a ramble that you didn't need. The point is, I've started this, not really loving it, it's fine, and I'm going to try and finish it possibly this afternoon. The lighting in this clip is probably going to be awful because I just got home from work and I can't be bothered to dig out my ring light, but I wanted to check in with you because I finished reading Creep by Jennifer Hillier last night, and I did not like this. I'm going to give it 2 stars. It's my least favourite book that I've read by Jennifer Hillier, and I couldn't work out whether it was the writing that I didn't like, because this was a debut and it felt a bit clunky in places, especially the dialogue. It felt like characters weren't talking how real people talk. So I think it was partly the writing that I didn't like, but also the story itself. I think I mentioned this is quite dark, but it's dark in the sense that every so often there'll be a really graphic description of something, and I just kept thinking, is this necessary? If I was enjoying the rest of the story, then I probably could have overlooked it, but those descriptions, all they do is make me recoil and feel a bit gross. So I don't typically enjoy reading stuff like that. I think it depends, because some authors actually write with a lot of atmosphere and a lot of emotion, but I don't find that Jennifer Hillier does that. Her books tend to feel more like popcorn thrillers, and the story itself, it was okay. I read this in 2 sittings because I wanted to find out what was going to happen, but I didn't feel that much tension. I could see the moments where I was meant to feel on the edge of my seat, but because the characters weren't acting rationally, in my opinion, I just didn't really feel what I think I was meant to feel. There was an interesting twist or reveal, whatever you want to call it, but I'd kind of worked out that that was the direction it was going in. So yeah, maybe I will read the sequel. That will be the only book that I need to read to complete Jennifer Hillier's backlist before her next book comes out next year. So we'll see if I can get it for 99p. If it shows up in a Kindle deal, then maybe, but I'm not going to go out of my way to read it. That does mean that we need to pick a new prompt. So I have my TBR mug here, and we're going to grab one from the bottom. I almost dropped another then, but this one is, okay, flowers on the cover. Can you see that? I think when I was writing out these prompts, I looked through my Kindle and picked out certain things that I could see to do with covers. So I am gonna have a look and see what options there are for this, and then I'll come back to you tomorrow because I'm quite tired now. I'll come back to you tomorrow if I've managed to find one that fits this prompt. So it turns out I actually have quite a few books on my TBR that have flowers on the cover, which makes sense because when I was coming up with these prompts, prompts. I deliberately made them as open as possible. I wanted options when I was choosing books to read, but the book that I have chosen for this particular prompt is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. This has a beautiful floral cover, and I do have this on my Kindle. I bought a physical copy a few years ago when I went to Edinburgh because I saw it in a bookshop and thought this is one of the most beautiful books that I've ever seen. Having regrets now because I have read two other books by this author. I've read the one about the witches. I think it's called The Once and Future Witches, maybe. That was the first book that I read by Alex E. Harrow, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. Another book that has a beautiful cover. I then read Starling House. Again, beautiful cover, but I didn't like that one quite as much. So I don't think that Alex E. Harrow is going to be a favourite author for me. When I read the first page of this, I thought, oh no, this is written in second person POV, as if I am being addressed as the reader, and I hate it when books break the fourth wall. I don't want to be involved in the story. Don't address me. It makes me feel like I'm being taken out of the story, and I just don't like it. But I do actually like the plot for this, so I'm gonna push through. I mean, I don't feel like I'm having to push through that much because I am liking the story. It's just every so often the writing style catches me off guard and I don't like it. But the story itself, we're following a main character called January, as in the title, and it's really difficult to explain, but this is historical fantasy. It's set in the early 1900s, and January has essentially been raised in this house by her father's employer. So her father's job is to go out into the world. He spends a lot of time traveling, bringing home artifacts and items for this rich guy. January is around 6 years old at the start of the book, and she comes across this door seemingly in the middle of nowhere, like it's just randomly there, and it seems to open to another world. There's then a few time jumps, but in the main timeline she's 17 years old and she comes across a book which talks about these doors and these other worlds, and it's a book within a book, which is a type of story that I enjoy. So I think there's a lot about this that I could like, but also don't love the writing. I think there's potential for me to enjoy this. I'm trying to look past the writing, but obviously the writing is a huge part of a story. It's very beautiful and whimsical, and again, sometimes that works for me and sometimes it doesn't. But I am currently about 20-something% of the way through. I don't know if you can see that. I'm hoping to read a little more this evening, but me and Sam might be going out. There's this art installation in the city centre that we were thinking about checking out, and then I also have a call with a friend this evening. Once I get to the halfway point or past the halfway point, I will check in with you again, because I feel like it's still early days and my thoughts might change as I get a little further in. Good morning. I am fairly sure that I'm going to finish the 10,000 Doors of January today. I have about 2 hours left according to my Kindle, so I'm going to try and finish it this afternoon before I go out this evening. I'm going to a Halloween party tonight. I do need to pop into town at some point today though, because I need to pick up the last bit for my costume. I'm going as Peter Rabbit. You probably don't care about that. You care about the reading updates. And like I said, I'm almost done with the 10,000 Doors of January. I don't know if I'm liking this or not. I keep going back and forth. It reminds me of The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which I didn't really like that much. It was the writing that I didn't like in The Starless Sea. I found it very poetic and descriptive, and this is nowhere near as poetic or descriptively written. It has a little bit, obviously. It has quite nice atmosphere, actually. I'm also used to the second person narration now, which is good because I think I mentioned I didn't like that in the beginning. It's also reminding me a little bit of Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Tors, which is a book that I really enjoyed. It has that sense of adventure, which I think The 10,000 Doors has as well. Inkblood Sister Scribe, I would say, is a mystery, and it also has a thriller element, which this is missing. This, I would argue, is not a mystery. There's been large chunks of this book where I felt, as the reader, I understand more than the main character, and it's felt a bit tedious waiting for her to catch up. I still don't know how I feel about January, actually, as a main character. I really like the book within a book. January is quite a passive character, and it's understandable because she's a woman of colour in the early 1900s, so it makes sense that things tend to happen to her rather than her having a lot of agency. She's been very sheltered because she's lived for most of her life with this rich man? Don't know what I was going for there, but she's been living most of her life under the care of this guy who is very privileged. She has gone through a little bit of character development, but there's been hints that she's still quite naive, and I'm nervous about the way that this is going to end and the direction that it's going to go in. But it's been enjoyable. Like, I'm not hating every minute of it. That would be quite harsh. I am thinking this is going to be somewhere between 3 and 4 stars, which isn't surprising considering that's what I've given every other book that I've read by Alex E. Harrow. So I'm going to finish it, and then I'll check in with you hopefully before the end of today. I finished reading The 10,000 Doors of January, and I think I'm going to give this 3 stars. Maybe it's more like a 3.5. There were things that I liked and things that I didn't like, which I've already talked about, so I'm not going to repeat myself. The ending was good. There was a moment that actually made me feel a bit emotional, and I wasn't expecting that. January as a character, though, annoyed me quite a bit, and I think that is unfair of me based on the circumstances, but she repeatedly does stuff that to me didn't feel logical, but I can understand why she did it. It just annoyed me because she kept making these mistakes, and it was really frustrating. I think I would have enjoyed this just a little more if she was either a bit older or more, I don't know the word that I'm looking for. If she hadn't made so many mistakes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, gonna give this 3 or 3.5 stars. It was fine, and I'm glad that I read it, even though I didn't love this as much as I was wanting to, because the cover is absolutely beautiful. I think I will continue to pick up Alex E. Harrow's books. I think I'm just at a point now where I'm not expecting them to ever be 5 stars. Every single book I think that I've read by this author has been somewhere between a 3 and a 4 stars. So that is a shame, because I know that a lot of people love Alex E. Harrow, but apparently they're just not an author for me. Now, if you've been doing the maths, my TBR should be currently at 106 books. However, I bought a book this morning. It's the 1st of November at the time that I'm filming this, and the new 99p Kindle deals were released, and I saw that Freak by Jennifer Hillier was 99p this month, and that is the sequel to Creep that I read earlier in the vlog, and it's the last Jennifer Hillier book that I need to read, so I thought I'll get it. I said this earlier in the vlog, I said I would get it if it was 99p, so I bought it. My TBR is currently 107 books, which has thrown my plans into disarray, because initially I was planning on filming 3 vlogs for this series, reading about 5 books in each vlog. I'm now, I think, going to do 4 vlogs, so the next vlog should be going live at some point towards the end of November or start of December, and then I'll do one final vlog in December where I try and get that TBR below 100. But I am going to be wrapping up this reading vlog here, so thank you for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know how many books are currently on your Kindle TBR. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.